Welcome back in, everyone, to this series where we are discussing how to find good bets and, in particular, how to identify certain winning angles that allow us to find good bets. So, next up today, I want to talk about in play data errors. So, let's get into it. I did want to remind everyone before we jump in that if you're interested in learning more about these angles or interested in learning more about how the modern sports books operate, I strongly suggest you check out Interception: The Secrets of Modern Sports Betting. This is written by Ed Miller, Matthew Davidow. They also wrote The Logic of Sports Betting. Both of these books have been huge, huge boons to our foundational knowledge in becoming better bettors. So please check those out if you haven't. Okay, in play data errors. So, although generally efficient, we know that the pregame lines, especially further down the betting menu that you go, are littered with plenty of pricing errors. Again, the sports books want to have as many bets up on the menu up for as long as they possibly can. And these betting menus become the proverbial Swiss cheese. Crazy part is, pricing these pregame lines is the easy part for books and their content providers, whether they're in house or out of house. Pregame lines, obviously, the main market ones, sides, totals, money lines, they have price discovery to lean on. And a lot of the derivative markets and everything are extrapolated out from those lines. Plus, not to mention, pregame info comes in relatively slowly, right? Maybe a trickle here, trickle there every other day, especially for football, which allows these pricing models to adjust before bettors can hammer any errors. The in game or these live lines are a whole different beast altogether. They are exclusively set using models and using algorithms. Again, this makes sense, right? We know how quickly plays can happen in sports. Game data is flowing in constantly. Things like fouls, penalties, injuries, challenges that will happen that somehow need to be accounted for and priced instantaneously for us as bettors. Oh, okay. You just saw that Rams quarterback Rufus Peabody got hurt and is now down on the field. Well, how bad is that injury? How will that affect his efficiency if he stays in the game? If he's out, what's the difference in skill level between him and his backup? How does the game script change? The questions go on, and the pricing models have to consider all of these outcomes and be ready to have lines up as quickly as possible. It's not easy. Now, a caveat here I do want to mention, don't forget about broadcast latency when watching sports at home or really anywhere. What you're seeing on TV is likely going to be at least several seconds delayed from what's actually happening in real time. You obviously want to find the fastest feeds available. So, how do you do this? Whether you're watching at home via cable, satellite, or streaming, you're going to want to literally time the delay between what you're watching and when the odds change, either direct at a certain sports book or via an odd screen that has live lines. We use Unabated, or Spank Odds is another great one that's out there that can track live lines in real time. Because of the inherent latency issues, it's generally a good idea to to bet only when you're on par with the sportsbook in terms of game flow information. So there's nuance to this discussion, but think like during TV timeouts. This makes a lot of sense. For example, the play is dead. Everything about the game flow has come in. There is no additional information that the pricing models will know that you do not know in terms of game flow information. But the difference or the nuance here is that if you know ball from being an avid sports fan over the years and you're watching a game where a flag is thrown, for example, but there's not yet been an announcement as to what the call is, you will likely have some intuition about what the call will be and how that will affect the game state. And there's a decent chance you might be able to react to it before the content providers and the sports books do. Again, I think one of the keys for this angle here is being able to understand what your latency or what your broadcast latency is and using a tool such as a live odds screen in order to track the difference in real times and see where one or two or maybe more sports books might be not lazy, but their pricing models might be uncertain or might have errors in them. One other thing to keep in mind here, and I've noticed this anecdotally, I don't know how true this is across the board, but in a lot of live markets, the hold will be set a little higher than the pregame lines are. So you might find common lines to be minus 115 on either side as opposed to minus 110. So again, when we go back to when we talked about in our misprice parlay correlation video, it's difficult to price these live models correctly. So one of the ways the sports books quote unquote get around this is to bake in a little bit of an additional hold here. So something to keep in mind. But the bottom line here, guys, it's difficult to price uncertainty in these live markets. There's going to be errors in the data feeds that the sports books use to set these lines. And this, again, allows for us as bettors opportunity to exploit. All the same caveats exist, right? Like be selective, sit down and stare at an odds screen and learn how these things will change over time in live markets. So, again, using your knowledge as a football fan in this case, understanding your broadcast latency and knowing in real time what the sports books odds are doing by using something like an odd screen, you in theory will be able to identify good bets even in the live markets. All right, that was a crash course into in-play data errors. I hope this was helpful again to just give you guys an introduction to an angle, to a strategy to where you can start to think critically about this stuff and refine, and hopefully identify some good bets. So, again, guys, if you have any questions or comments, please drop them below here. And as always, good luck.